Michael, where's your head on this?
Well, first of all, there are a couple of things. The talking about the number of cases in the NBA means nothing. Every industry has this. We don't know how many people in every industry, every workplace. And this is not because the NBA has an increasing number. The NBA is going to have a bigger number than this, just like every workplace in the world, workplace in America particularly, since we're talking about whether or not we're optimistic. I don't know if I want to use the word optimistic, but like Stephen A., I'm hopeful. But we get forgetting something. We're talking about here not even about the number of tests available. We're talking about the flattening of this virus, right? We're talking about what is going to happen. And the doctors that I've talked to, and there's quite a few, one of the things they mention is these things are seasonal. Every one of these pandemics has been seasonal. We talk about flu being seasonal. The reason they tied so much of this to May, June in terms of flattening is because of sun and warmth throughout America. And most of the country doesn't even get there until June and maybe a little bit later. So and that's just one of many factors. I'm hopeful because as spring becomes summer and you get that sort of sun and warmth in which the virus, if not cannot live, certainly flattens, maybe we can get to there's no reason not to have a playoff. And I don't see a regular season resuming, but there's no reason not to have a playoff in July or August or September. Why not? So we're talking about time here, and nobody wants to wait on anything in the world we live in today. And Molly, when I said talking about trying to be in a better mood, we're talking about time. And we have to, as a culture, get used to something that we don't want to accept, which is we're gonna be like this. What is today? March what? Where are we? I've lost track. Are we the 20th yet?
March.
So it's March 20th. So we're talking about at least 2 more months of just waiting. And of course, people are going to test positive again in every industry. So I am hopeful, not optimistic. I'm not pessimistic about it, but I'm thinking that if there can be a resumption of the season just in terms of the playoffs, if we can get to a point where we've seen this flattening by June, let's say we see it by June 15th, why couldn't there be a playoff? And we're talking 3 months.
Michael.
Why couldn't there be a playoffs after that?
Michael, I hear what you're saying. Here's my fear, because I'm hoping that you're right. Of course, I'll take it in empty gyms. You will take it with no more regular season, just the playoffs. We'll take it however we can get it. But what a flattening means is a prolonging. Right? So in other words, we don't want everyone to get it at once, but there's an acknowledgement that a huge percentage are going to get it. So we want people to get it over time. That means that we could be in this kind of social distancing mode for quite some time, and that's if we're successful containing it. If we're successful flattening, that pushes everything back. What it really comes down to, I think, is does the federal government make tests widely available? If that's the case, if they fail, as they've been failing to do that, then forget it. Because even if you can contract with private contractors, there will be legitimate criticism. Hey, wait a minute, there aren't enough tests to go around. We can't use these tests just for the NBA. But if the federal government is successful in generating these tests and making them available, then it would be legitimate for the NBA to grab a bunch of them and say, we've tested our guys, we've quarantined, the games will go on. And I think that's what it's going to come down to.
Well, for me personally, I'm of the mindset that, Mike, I don't believe that a playoff can take place in September. I think that would be disastrous because, first of all, you don't want to compete with the NFL. I think we've proven that. You don't want to compete with the NFL, even if it is the NBA playoffs. And then, obviously, you're talking about pushing the start of next season back as well, which is something they'd have to take into consideration. I do believe that even though it wouldn't be a preference by anybody, that you could have a playoff if, indeed, you can resume play in June. I think you could play basketball up until mid to the end of August and get away with it because I think that the ratings will soar and people will gravitate towards playoff basketball. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.